So we're going to talk about editing. Uh, Photoshop can be a bit overwhelming for a lot of beginners, so I'm not going to overwhelm with you all these options on Photoshop, as this is not really about a course on Photoshop. So I'm just going to tell you four of my favorite tools, or four of the essential tools that I think that everyone should master or know about. So I'm going to start with a simple edit of a portrait, which is a very common edit. So I'm going to open that up. So this is a beautiful portrait by Vincent Tan. And so first thing is, I would like, for personally my own tastes, I would like to change the curves, maybe change the saturation, the contrast, and the photo filter, which are the essential tools for photographers, I think, or my favorite tools I like to use. So just look at this. So just plainly looking at this image, I feel that it needs to be a little bit more contrast because I love her wrinkles and I want to heighten the wrinkles up. So I want to add more contrast to that. I also want to change the saturation of certain elements, perhaps even change it to black and white. So we'll think about that. So definitely and the photo filters, right? Perhaps, so I'm going to show you how you can play with photo filters later. So first, I'm going to use the curve. So we're going to come down here on this bar here, and this icon here is the adjustment bar. Okay, so if you click on it, there are all these options. So it can be very overwhelming, but I find the essential things you need to know is curves, exposure, or curve, brightness and contrast, hue and saturation, and a photo filter, so right here. So those are the four things that I use a lot. The others I don't use as much, and I've been photographing and editing for quite a long time. So let's start with curves. So if you select curves, click on it, this menu will come up, and basically this is your histogram. So right now it's showing that majority of the image is kind of leaning towards the dark side. This is the light side, highlights and shadows. Okay, so from that I know that I need to perhaps brighten it up. So let's do that. Click this off. Hide this, so because we're not working on it yet, I just want to brighten up. I just want to bring up the histogram, and then brightness and contrast, click on that. Okay, so this is brightness. I'm going to lift that up a bit, and I'm going to play with contrast. So you can do the exactly same thing with curves, but this for beginner, I think it's easier. So personally for me, I use curves on almost everything. Okay, so here's another way to do it, is using curves. So I'm going to click on curves. We already did that, so I'm just going to bring the eye back up, which means it's visible now. Double click on this icon here, the histogram, and what I can do is, it's saying there's a lot of shadows here, so I want to lift the shadows. So I'm just going to lift that up. See, you see how that, so if you pull it down, it gets darker. You pull it up, it gets brighter. So it's getting bright around this area, which is what I like. But I want to make it a little bit more contrasty. So I'm going to go to the mid and bring it up a little bit more. And then maybe pull that down. Make it a bit contrasty. Pull that down a little bit. You see the wrinkles start showing up. So just like that. Okay, I'm very happy with that. So you can make it more. So the more the curves look like an S, the more contrast there is. Okay, let's show this example. So let's bring this down. Bring this down. So it's more like an S now. So you see there's more of a contrast now, right? So I personally don't like that. So I don't want to fix that again. So I'm just going to delete that. Delete layer. Yes. And I'm going to create a new one. Okay, so Curve is my favorite editing tool because I can do a lot of things with Curve on its own. So instead of doing a few things or opening a few tools, I can just achieve that, which is Curve. Okay, so here's Curve. Brightness does almost the same thing, right? So if you notice that, it's similar. Okay, but I don't mind bringing the brightness up just a bit. Okay, the other thing you can do is exposure, but I personally don't like using the exposure, this option here, but I personally don't like using that. Next thing, so hue and saturation. So click on hue and saturation. This master file comes up. So you see the red right here. If I want to dull it down, I'm just going to select red. There are a few options. I can lighten it like that. You see that? All the reds are lightening. Bring it back to 0. Or I can do it with saturation. Okay. So anything that has red would desaturate, or I can boost up the saturation. Okay. So like that. So I'm going to bring that to 0. Okay. The other thing is, if you want the whole thing to kind of be black and white, just pull saturation. Let's go back to master, which is all the colors, and pull the saturation like that. Okay, so that's an option. I like to use hue and saturation for a lot of different things, for changing the hue, but more importantly also is changing the color balance. So a lot of photos have color balance, either it's too magenta or too green. So this is a way to remove the color. Okay, you can click on this icon here. The eye drop comes off. To say you want to desaturate this blue, click on the blue, select the specific blue, and then I can just target that blue. You see the light, any blue that contains that goes down, while everything else remains. Okay, so I find the red in the background a bit distracting, so what I am going to do is I'm going to target this red and then lighten it up. So it's not targeting for me right now, so I might want to move that red here to the target zone, and there you go. Okay. So I like that, but what happened is her lips also got red. So I'm going to show you what we can do with mask. So we're going to click here. So you see this is the mask and this is the icon. So I'm going to click on the mask, black and white, black to block, and white to reveal. Okay, so you're reviewing, blocking what's there. So white now is revealing the whole thing, but I want to bring the color black back. So I want to block that edit there. So I'm going to bring that there, black to block. So this is a brush. Brush is too big, make it smaller. Okay, so you're going to click here, make it quite small. Harden it 0. I'm going to make it maybe around 49. Every image is different, so okay, so you see. Make sure this is 100% opacity. And I'm going to review her lips color. Okay, that way I'm blocking my edit that I did for the red background on her lips. Okay, didn't seem to affect anywhere else, but if it affected anywhere else, then you might want to just go around and fix that. Okay, so I'm happy with that for now. Okay, so that's one edit. The other thing, photo filter, is just like your Instagram, right? Where you have a specific color or something you want to do. For me, I use photo filter to remove color balance or to add warm. See right here, adding warm. You can make it cooler. You can make it yellow. Again, yellow kind of give this nostalgia, right? So maybe like that. Maybe not that yellow, but another different yellow. So I would double click on this color palette, and then your color picker appears. Maybe go down here a little bit. I can change it to maybe brown, something like that. So again, black is to block, which means it's nothing. Maybe here, something. So it's up to you. But usually I use this not to add color, but to remove color. So I would, if something is too cool, I would add yellow. If something is too warm, then I would add blue. Okay, so you can use these filters right here. Okay, so those are kind of the basic tools that you need for editing a photo that I personally use a lot. The other thing that I kind of use, but not very often, is this tool, where's it? Levels. Okay. So what I would do is, depending, I'll make it brighter by pulling the midtones towards the black, or the opposite. Okay. So right now I want it at 1. Okay. And then you see there's no information here. I would just bring that in. You see there's no effect because there's no information. But if I bring it further in, it makes it brighter, or loses that that color. I can shift the whole thing, black, bringing it in, so it's quite black, and it just gives you, it pulls all this area, or the colors in this area in. Okay, so, but I don't really use that often, so I'm going to delete that. So these are the essential things I use, and I want you guys to try it and play with it, and see what, experiment, but really try to get to know the layers, and how the layers affect each other, understanding the masking or simple masking like this. Okay, so play with this a lot, and practice, practice, practice. Photoshop is all about practicing, so I will see you in the next video.